Joining us tonight, Vermont Senator and two-time presidential candidate Bernie Sanders in Omaha tonight with his message to take power away from the wealthy. First Alert 6 Joe Harris spoke with Senator Sanders tonight. Joe, how does his message translate here in Omaha?
Jacqueline, Sanders says he wants to educate people about legislation he says would be bad for working class Americans and what he calls the corruption of democracy. The ballroom in the downtown Marriott Hotel was packed Friday night with those wanting to see Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. He was in Omaha to kick off his tour and spoke about a bill in Congress he says would be terrible for average Americans.
What this legislation would do if Trump and the Republican leadership get their way is give over $1 trillion in tax breaks to billionaires and the top 1% and make massive cuts in Medicaid, education, and the needs of the elderly and our veterans and our kids.
He says if only 2 House Republicans don't vote for that bill, it dies. And that's what he wants to see happen. Sanders' message also took aim at billionaires who give campaign contributions to support both Republicans and Democrats, which he says corrupts elections.
So we need real campaign finance reform and the absolute ending of Citizens United, which was a disastrous Supreme Court decision.
Some of Sanders' supporters tell First Alert 6 his message hits the working class differently than what they've been hearing from Democrats.
Just look at their last candidate, favored genocide continuation, favored continued destruction of the climate, not in favor of health care for everybody, not in favor of raising the minimum wage. That's the Democrats. I mean, they had 4 years to fight back against this stuff. They are, for me, the enablers of Trump and Trumpism.
Not everyone was positive about his visit to Omaha. Congressman Don Bacon sent First Alert 6 a statement saying, in part, "We have a job to get our economy growing faster than inflation, securing our border, growing our energy production, and restoring deterrent. Bernie isn't helping to get these done." Now, we also reached out to the Douglas County GOP for comment, but we haven't heard back tonight. Sanders wouldn't comment on whether or not he'll make another presidential run in 2028. In the studio, Joe Harris, First Alert 6.